and you
Hi.
can take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. As Jason said, my name is Judy Mahalik, and I am a middle school music teacher. I teach general music grades 6 through 8 and chorus at the Dowdy Middle School in Bangor. I have my master's in instructional technology, and I'm currently working on getting my Google Educator certification. And so as part of this project, this is sort of good experience for me. So I've never done a training quite like this online through Zoom, so bear with me if we have any technical issues. I've got the chat open, so feel free to ask questions as we go there, or if anything comes up, that would be a great place for you to sort of communicate with us in a different way. So to get started, how many of you, just wave at me, have used Google Forms before in your teaching? Just so I know. I am Mr. Redmond, you have?
A little bit.
Okay. So, all right, good. So this is going to be pretty much a very basic introduction to Google Forms. And I'm going to give you some just general information. There is so much you can do with this part of Google. You can use it anything from quizzes that will self-grade, so you automatically have grades for kids when they take them, to you can do an exit ticket as students are leaving. You can do sort of an overall view of what their prior knowledge is by doing a pre-quiz. You can even do worksheets, and I think what I'm going to do is, since we're going to distance learning now, a little bit more significantly, is I'm going to have worksheets for all of my students in each segment of my classroom. So there are all kinds of things you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how you can find Google Forms in the Google applications, and just show you some basic things you can do. All right, so are you all seeing my screen okay?
Yep.
All right.
Oh.
All right, so I've got a test classroom set up right here, and that's what we're going to work out of today. But I do want to point out that over on the waffle right here, you can get to Google Forms. I'm under my education account. I went last night under my personal account. Google Forms is there as well. But the templates they give you are general templates, like how to set up a t-shirt order for your son's sports team, or just things like that, how to do an order form for your business. The forms in here, the templates I'm just going to show you quickly, are a little bit more geared towards education. So as they come up, it's a little bit slow. You can see right at the top, you can set up a worksheet, an exit ticket, a blank quiz, or an assessment. So they've got all the settings in there ready to go, and you don't really have to play with them as much because you have the template right there. But I am going to go the way that most of us will do this, will approach this, and that's to go into classroom. And I have a test classroom right here. I've got 3 students in my classroom right now, and don't worry, I'm not doing anything wrong with FERPA. They are all fake students. So we can look at my people. And I've got Bill fake, real fake, and Susan fake. And so they will all be taking my fake quiz. So if you go back to your classwork, I right now have 3 segments set up. Under week 2, I've already got a quiz posted. I'm going to go and start one under week 1. So what I'm going to do here is under classwork, where it says to create, I'm going to drop down. And you can see right here that there's a quiz assignment right there. That will give you a quiz template all set up as a quiz. If you have a quiz already created and you've got it in your drive, you would want to set up a regular assignment and then just attach the quiz to that through Drive. Okay? But let's go ahead and let's put a quiz assignment in there. So it comes up and it looks something like this. I'm going to move my people over here. All right. So you can see that it will give you a title, instruction. You've got a blank quiz right down here. It's very cool because if you have students that work on Chromebooks, you can turn that on, and therefore they can only work in this window. They can't go anyplace else. They can't Google. They can't look at other notes. They're only working in this window. That does not work on MacBooks though, only on Chromebooks. And then I have it set up so I can import my grades, and that way when kids are all done, I'll get a spreadsheet of the grades. I can import them back into Classroom. I can import it into Infinite Campus or whatever grading system that you're using, depending on the software. All right. So I'm going to give it a title, and I'm going to call it Music Reading Quiz. And then I'll give the students instructions. Please take the following quiz and submit it when you are done. All right, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look here. You don't want to click assign until you've actually created your quiz, but I always try to set this up over on this side without assigning it so I don't forget to do it. So I've got it right now in my test classroom. If I wanted to assign this quiz to more than one classroom, I could check off whichever classes I wanted. Okay. I can choose the students that I want to take it in that class. So for example, if Bill has been out of school for the past week because he's had the flu, I can take him off, and only Reel and Susan will get the quiz. Okay. You can attach a rubric if you want. And that's, you know, meets the standards, exceeds the standards. You can set one of those up. That's a different lesson, but you could do that as you want. All right, so then from here, we're going to go into the blank quiz. All right, it will come up and it will look something like this. All right, at this point, I'm going to stop. Are there any questions so far?
There aren't any in the chat box so far.
Okay, I can't see the chat box. All I can see is the strip. So.
Yep, I'm looking at the chat box right now.
Okay.
Yep, I'll let you know if anything pops up.
Okay. All right, so your blank quiz is going to look like this. You can give it a title up here. Again, I'm going to call it music. Or with a reading quiz. And for some reason, when it attaches the quiz, I don't know why exactly, this very first section right here, it's also the name that the students are going to see. So I want to call it the same thing. Okay, and then on reading notes in, let's say treble clef. All right, okay. So then that's the actual title that the students are going to see when it attaches. Does that make sense? All right. So the next thing you do is you can start adding questions. But what I like to do is, I don't know about you, but when you're in a face-to-face classroom and you say, okay, guys, it's time to start the quiz. You know how you have that little chatter while everyone simmers down and settles down and needs to focus in? So what I do is the very first questions that I put up are always for them to tell me, what is your name and what mods do I have you for music? You really don't need to do this. These will automatically be attached if you're doing this through Classroom to their names, to their emails, but I just find it helps kids focus. And I want you to watch, do you see right over here where it says multiple choice? This is the type of quiz question that's going to be asked. However, when I type in here, you're going to see that change. So if I'm going to say, what is your first and last name? Question mark. You see Google automatically notice that's probably going to be short answer because it's probably not going to be multiple choice of, you know, what their names are. So you can put that right in there, and I'm going to require them to answer that. Okay? Does that make sense? And then the next one, let's try a drop down question. So when do you have music? So this will be the mods. We have a mod system. I'm going to do a drop down box for this. So the students will have to select from a drop down. So options 1 is mods 1, 2, mods 3, 4, mods 7, 8, so on and so forth. And that's going to be required as well. Okay. So let's go back and see what we've got so far. If we go up here to the little eyeball, you can preview your quiz. All right, so they'd put their first and last name in there, and then they would have to choose when they have music. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
What is the difference between a drop-down menu then and a multiple choice?
When you have multiple choice, you'll have the little button that they can click. And the drop-down menu, they just slide down to it and click on that. There really isn't much.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to the quiz. Take it off my little preview. And we're going to go to where we're actually editing. And I'll show you a multiple choice question right now. So I'm going to add a new segment right now, and I'm going to call this segment, let's see, we'll call it multiple choice. We'll do a multiple choice section. And then the description is going to be choose the letter name that goes with your note. So from here, what we're going to do is you are going to create a question. So here's your first question. It's untitled. They've already selected as multiple choice is the one that comes up. And so I'm going to say, what is the name of this note? And what I want to do is I want to actually put a picture in of that note. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And then on my desktop, I have media. And I'm going to put in A. And you'll see it's going to upload a picture. Okay. So then I can put in the options of A. Let's see. B. Lets me see D. Okay. And then I am going to make this as required. They have to answer it. And then on the answer key, I'm going to check the correct answer, which is A. Okay. You can give them feedback. Like if they got the correct answer, whoops, sorry, that's my dog. Sorry. You can give correct feedback that, you know, great job. Sorry about that. She was sleeping so quietly.
Oh, the joys of Zoom training. I love it.
And then when we're done, you click done. And so if the student corrects A, they'll get the correct answer. You can see that none of the other ones have that green check by them, so those are not correct. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do is also, she distracted me with her marking. I can give this a point value. So I usually give everything just 1 point unless it's a constructed response or, you know, a longer answer. I may want to manually grade that. Okay. I'm done. Any questions so far on adding multiple choice questions?
I had a question.
Sure.
So when do you click the answer key? After they're done doing it, or do you do it when you're creating the quiz?
When you're creating it, so you can choose the correct answer. So if you go down here to answer key, I can choose which one of those or all of them are the correct answers. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. So let's go back and preview and see what we've got so far. So I can put my name in here, choose, and then if I go on, it's going to tell me I need to put my name in. And when I have music, and then I can go on, and I can put the correct answer in, submit, and then I can get my score so far. Okay, and it will show me what I got correct. And then my feedback was great job. it made me submit it right there because that was the last question I had on the quiz, but you can still continue to go through the quiz. Okay, obviously, if you haven't taken it yet. One thing I forgot to mention in the basic settings, I didn't go over this. I'm going to jump back to that just for a second. It's how to set this up. Because there are things that you do need to be aware of in the settings tab, which is this little cog over here. Okay. If you want to collect the email addresses, you can. You can choose that the student, the response receipts, would you like this emailed to you? Would you like your responses emailed to you? You can choose that if you want. And then you can do that if they say yes, or you can have them just always happen. They always get an email. Okay. You can restrict this to within your system. Most systems are set up that way. You can limit it so they can only respond once. So they can't go back and fix their answers. Or you can have them go back and fix their answers. That's totally up to you. And then you can have them edit after it's submitted. And you can also have them see text summary charts and text responses and things like that. Okay. So under presentation, one thing I didn't have is you can have a progress bar. So they can see that you've done question 1 of 3 or 1 of 8. You can shuffle the orders of the questions. So if you have a student or you have 2 students that sit near each other and they like to share information, and you don't want them sharing during a quiz, in other words, their eyes like to wander, you can have their questions come up in different orders, which is very helpful. Okay, so you can shuffle the question order. And then the last one is, you want to make this a quiz. If you do this in forms and you just do a general blank form, you want to make it a quiz so it's self-graded. And again, you can lock it on Chromebooks here. And you can release the grade if you're doing multiple choice or drop down immediately after they submit, they get a grade back. Or if you have anything like short answer, paragraph that they need to review, they can do that later. You can do that later. Okay. So it depends on what you're using. If you're using just a multiple choice drop-down menu type quiz where there's just one answer right, you're just checking for comprehension, doing a vocab quiz, something like that, then that's the one I always do is immediately after submission, then I don't have to grade it. It's automatically done. But if it's constructed response or something like that where you want to actually go in and give them feedback and want to give them like maybe 3 out of 5 for the point value, you'd have to do it that way. Does that make sense? All right. Sorry about that. I was going to do that and I forgot.
Hey, Judy.
Yes.
Can you, question from the group, can you tailor feedback to specific wrong answers? Or is it, I think it's, you just give feedback if the answer is wrong, correct? It's not like if they pick, it's one piece of feedback for any wrong answer and it's one piece of feedback for any right answer.
Exactly. So if you did, if you did the edit here, it's if you did a wrong answer, you were close. Something like that. It isn't, you were off by 1 or, you
right. Or if you can find a way of writing your feedback to be helpful or supportive to any wrong answer, right? I mean, you have to just be.
It has to be generic. But one thing I did find, which is cool, is right here, you can link to video. And so if you have a private YouTube channel, you could give feedback on individual questions. If you want to go that far, that's a lot of work. But you could say, the correct answer is the letter A, because remember, the names of the spaces in treble clef are F-A-C-E. The second one up is A. If you had a B, you probably were on a line. So you could actually do that if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. So, all right.
And Judy, where did you get, this isn't necessarily quiz specific related, but where did you get your images of the staff and the notes and all of that? Did you just do a Google Images search for those things?
I did, Google Images search on them, and I got them off of a Creative Commons site where they were free. It was for educational use, so that was the thing. Yeah, I don't have the the links to it, but I could put them up there for anyone who wants them.
But let's say you're not a music educator. Let's say you're a math educator. If you want to write out an equation or you want to type out an equation and then save it as a JPEG or as an image, right? Then you can attach it to any question. And so for any of you that teach anything other than music, you have an option of putting whatever image you want in there.
Right. You can take a picture of something. You can attach a video if you wanted to. Right over here, you can see that there's a little video sign. So if you had, for example, someone reading a passage in ELA, and then you wanted, like it was on YouTube, and you had your students listen to it, and then you wanted to ask for feedback on that passage, they could watch the video and then they could write a constructed response or a short answer afterwards, which is pretty cool too. Okay, good question.
So it really takes quizzes to a whole new level because they're now multimedia and quasi-interactive, which is really cool.
Exactly. And actually, and that's how I'm using this, is not necessarily for quizzes, but for my distance learning. I've got some of these posted as assignments with a video. So they're not going to be graded as a quiz or as an assessment of any sort, but they're going to be watching. For example, I just found a thing on, the difference between music and noise. And so my students are going to watch a video and then they're going to have to reflect on what they found the difference was by watching that video. And we're going to have a class discussion on it. So it is pretty cool. Like I know you can do that in Classroom already if you just set up a regular assignment and do it. But this way, it sort of gives you step-by-step of what you want them to do. Whereas sometimes if you have a document in Classroom that they're reading, they miss parts of it. Whereas this is, you can't go on until you do this, which is nice. If you mark it required. Okay. All right. Are you ready for the next section, or is there any more questions?
Good.
All right. Okay, so let's go to the next section, and then I'm going to add a new section. Now that we've done multiple choice, and let's see. Well, I did a drop down earlier. Let's do another drop down. So let's do these symbols. And then the option is going to be choose one or more answers that best describe these symbols. Okay, and so my new section, I'm going to add a question. It just popped down there. I'm going to change this to checkboxes. And then I'm going to say name this symbol. Sorry. Type. There we go. All right, so again, I'm going to go pull from here. And I tried to do this earlier, and it wouldn't let me drag and drop, but let's see if it will let me this time. Oh, it's going to. You can either drag and drop, or you can search. You can browse your computer to find. Nope, it didn't. Let's see. Nope, did it?
Hey.
Oh, I did. All right, good. So what I'm going to do is now I have checkboxes. So this symbol is called the treble clef or the G clef. I want to see if students know that it's both. So I'm going to give them the option. I'm going to say G clef, F clef, C clef. And then I'll go treble. And again, I can shuffle these answers, so I'm not giving them in any particular order, just what makes sense to me. All right, this is going to be required. And I'm going to go to my answer key. Whoops. Let's see. answer key. I'm going to check off G clef and treble clef are the correct answers. Done. I'm going to shuffle the order like that. All right. And then when the students take this, they will have to get this one and this one correct in order to get a correct answer. This is where you may want to go into that manual grading. And I'll be honest, that's an area that I am still learning myself, but you can manually grade. So they, like if this was worth 2 points and they got one of them correct, you could give them 1 point for that. Okay.
I found a really useful like 2-minute video that Google puts out on their YouTube channel about manual grading. It does automatic grading and it does manual grading, and I'm going to give you the link to that before we leave this session today, so that you can have that as a resource to go back to if you just want a quick revisit to the auto grading feature and the manual grading.
Okay. All right.
Does everybody also notice that on the checkboxes you can have an add other option? So if you really want to get tricky, you could actually have your students, if the correct answer isn't there, they have to tell you what the correct answer is. So I guess it just would add a level of complexity to your quizzing.
See if I can. Sometimes it doesn't let me go back in because it says I've already taken the quiz because I've submitted it, but it's going to. All right, so it's going to make me go through the whole thing. This is two. You can see that little scroll bar is there. That's an A. Now, do you see how it's going to bring me one section at a time, which for a student, like it's makes it sort of in their mind, I'm doing multiple choice for this whole section while I'm on this whole page. And then, so if I had 3 or 4 multiple choice, they would all be on this page. Then when I go to the next one, they can see now I'm at where I have to choose more than one answer. So do you see it's also shuffled the answers? G clef was at the top, but F clef is now. So if I did G clef and treble clef, but you see other is also there, and I can submit. Okay. And remember on the settings, I have that, I've submitted this, but I wasn't really sure of this. I could go back and I could edit because I did give the students that option. So you know how sometimes like they click through and you're like, yeah, you need to go and look at it again. Go try again. You can have that edit your response if you want them to go back and reconsider their answers. Or you can submit another response. I selected those, you don't have to. If you want them one and done, that's what you need to choose. Okay?
Judy,
Yes.
can your answer options be images as well that students select?
Good question.
It's not mine. I'm just passing it along.
Yes,
But it's a great
think
question.
It looks like they can.
I thought that you could. I just didn't. I couldn't remember what it looked like.
So let me just do another one right now. I'll add another question, and then I'll say, I don't know. Let me just make it a quickly test, and we're gonna do the checkboxes like we had. Option 1, picture 1. Let's put a picture in there. Sorry, my little folder's hidden. All right, so let me drop a picture in there and see what it looks like. So you could say like, which one of these notes is C? Yeah, there we go. It's required. So let's go back. So C. So let's try option 1. Let's put another one in there. Option 2, let me grab a C. Ah, there we go. And so if you go to the answer key, that would be your correct answer. 1, And let's go through the preview again. It's going to make me go through it again. And boom. And then you can, let's see, next. I'll just do one there. Okay, so there you go. Which notice C? Option 2. And submit. There. Yeah, I learned something. I thought you could too. I just have never done it that way. That's a great.
So again, just to put it through like a through a math lens, if you have a graph and you want to know what equation was used to get the results in the graph, you could either type out, because I know they make keyboard sets for math equations, math symbols. You could write it out and then have it each be an image of what the equation is, and then have your students pick that, or which sentence has three verbs in it, or whatever. I mean, you could do a number of different things there with images.
All right, so what I'm going to do right now, first of all, any other questions at this point?
Not really, Judy. I've been tagging a couple in the box just as like procedural ones, but there is a question. If you create a quiz, if you use the quiz feature like a worksheet, like to go through an assignment, can you track who's seen it or completed it? Even if it's even if you're not grading it, but they've submitted it? Is that, I mean, because you can do quizzes ungraded. I know that.
Exactly. And I believe the way I track it usually is in Classroom, where the students submit. You can see if they've turned it in. Let me see. Classes tab is done. You can see if they've turned it in. You can see what they've done. So let me go back.
So to answer your question, Pam, you can't necessarily control, you can't see if they've seen it, but you know that you've assigned it to them. So, and you can see when they've submitted it, but you can't necessarily see if they've seen it per se.
So it would show up, yeah. Let's see, under classwork. Actually, I think under people, once you've submitted it, it would say that it was submitted under this specific assignment. So if I went here, you get right here, you can see who's assigned and who's turned it in. Is that what?
Yeah, it just, the only X factor in that is we don't, through this platform, you don't have a chance to know if they've seen it or not.
Right.
Like if they've seen it and not done it, you don't have the option for that. You can either see that it's still assigned to them, or that they've completed it and submitted it.
Right. Yeah, like you can see here, all 3 of my students were assigned this form at 11:38 this morning.
But there isn't a feature of like,
no.
Bill opened it at 10 a.m. and hasn't done anything with it yet.
Yeah, what I can do though is I can log in as one of my students. We can try that. So hold on just a second. And
Judy, you're being a real champ with this, because I remember in my previous sessions what it was like to try to go between accounts and stuff. It was a little, it was a little weird. So yeah.
So let me see. Let me open a new tab. And I'm going to go into, let's do Susan. So I'm going to log in as Miss Susan, and she's going to go to my class. And so she's been assigned this quiz. This is another one that I did earlier. And so she's going to take it right now, and then we'll go and see what it looks like on the other end of the teacher. Oh, I must have turned it off so it could not accept responses. That's lovely. I think I was playing a little too much on that one. Well, let's see. I can assign the quiz that we just did to her. Go to classwork. I think I can edit this one. Lovely. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. So right now that one's done. Okay. And then just my draft. So great. I'm going to, actually, I'm going to go just create an assignment. Sorry, guys. I'm curious myself now as to whether or not that works. An assignment. And I'm just going to attach a Google form to it. And we'll give this one just to Susan. And quiz. Okay. And I'm going to assign it. And then if we go to Susan's account, she should see it. Now, if I can remember which one of these tabs is Susan. All right. Let's see. I think that was her. Well, I'll change myself to Susan.
You can't trust those fakes.
No. All right, there we go. So. One, two, next. Susan break. All right, so now let's just go back and see if she has, as a teacher, and see if she's opened it. So I'm going to go to my stream. One student. Assigned to one student. Doesn't appear that you can see whether or not she's opened it or not. Okay.
But not that Judy or I work for Google or get any kickbacks from them, but I will just say again, if you write Google help an email and tell them that you would like to have that feature, they oftentimes put people working to that stuff. I mean, they're incredibly responsive to making adjustments and changes to what the functionality is for the platform. I mean, Judy, I'm sure you've experienced that,
Oh, yeah.
right? Anybody else that's used it, I mean, they will make changes sometimes within the same week that you give them an idea.
Yes, they are amazing that way. There have been, I know when we first started using Classroom in Bangor, I was pretty active because I was in grad school at the time getting my master's in IT. And so I was using it a lot, just familiarizing myself because it was such a new platform. And I can't remember what the question was, but I literally got on to their Google for Education site, mailed a question about, can you have this functionality? And within, I think it was 3 days, I got an email back stating, well, first of all, within 24 hours, I got one back saying they were working on it. That was a great idea. And then within 3 days, it was actually up in an update. So
it's awesome. It's totally cool.
They really are amazing. All right.
Hey, Judy, when you're in the quiz for Susan right here, can you go through it, and then does Susan have an option of going back to a previous section? Oh yeah, you can click the back button at the bottom, right?
Yep, right at the bottom. So like, for example, I just took, this one.
Yep.
So I can even go back further. I'll go back and I'll go through the entire quiz so you can see. So
so you can back all the way out if you need to.
Yeah, she has music mods 1, 2. You can see her progress. She's on page 1 of 3. So this is her multiple choice section. She answered that question. Which note is C? I actually really love this option. I'm glad someone brought that up because it tests both ways, whether or not they can figure out the name of the note or whether they can visually
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to use that. Thank you, whoever asked for that. That's really great. And then submit.
But let's say that she got to the end of that section, the last section before she submitted, and she said, oh, geez, I made a mistake on that first question. She could back out and select a different answer and then go forward again. And
I think that's a great, one of the things that we teach our kids is that, use all your resources. Use the quiz that you're taking to take the quiz. You may find a hint for an answer that you didn't get. So it's okay to do that. It's okay to, like, when you get further along in the quiz, as long as you have that option to go back to say, oh, wait a second, that made me think of something. It's a great test taking strategy. So,
yeah.
Right.
And then Judy, can you show when you get submissions of quizzes, how you can export the results in a Google Sheet?
Yes. So right now she just finished her quiz. And so I'm going to go back. There's Susan's quiz. It's been submitted. I can look at what she has done. Actually, it thinks it's me right now, but anyway, I go back. I can import grades right here. Okay. So if I want to import her grade, I can. And it will pull it right into Classroom. And right now she has a 1 of 1, probably because I need to go through and manually grade some of those. But that's how you get the grade. You can actually pull it right through. And this is where I always get stuck. You can download the grades.
I think you have to go back to the original.
Yeah, where the original quiz.
If you go to the original quiz, right, and then go to responses at the top.
Yep, right there. Okay, so you see I've got 4 responses. This is really cool because you can sort of see what your students are doing. That's where I'm going to download it, but I'm still accepting responses. So if I had students that, say I said, you need to take it on this day or else you're going to have to take a different quiz so you guys don't compare answers. So I can give them, this class period to take it, and then I can shut the quiz off completely. So no one else can get in to take the quiz. They'll have to take another version of it. And you can actually make a copy of the same quiz where everything is mixed up. You can change the answers, you can change the responses, the orders. It's pretty easy to give them a different chance on a different day. So you can see right here out of the points scored, the distribution. You can see I have not released their scores back to them, which is sort of when we return scores, I can release my scores back so the students can get them. They give the answer of percentage of who answered which question. Like I said, Mrs. M and Susan Fake. So you can see that 3 of the responses were Mrs. M, 1 was Susan Fake. They both had music in my Mods 1-2 class, conveniently. And then, okay, so 75% of the answers were correct on the first question. 100% were correct. They all knew it was a treble clef, but only 2 knew, all knew it was a G clef, only 2 knew it was a treble clef. And then they all got this one correct. Okay.
So can you scroll back up to the top, Susan, so that they can see? So notice, everybody, this is under a tab called Summary on the left-hand side under where it says 4 responses. This gives you like aggregated data. You can actually look by question, by specific question too. If you're in the responses, you can go through and look at each question individually. Yeah.
Yep. Or you can look by responses.
Yep.
And then, so also in the responses, you can create a spreadsheet.
This call may be monitored or recorded.
And you can either put it in an existing one. So say if you had a spreadsheet going for one of your, like my Mod 1-2 classes, I want all their information on one spreadsheet. I could select that. So every time we took a quiz, it just added it to it. Or I can do a brand new one just for this assignment. And so it creates a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. And then you can see the timestamp of when they took the quiz, the email addresses that are attached to them, what mods they're in, what the names of the questions are, what they got correct, which was the most popular one, which was the one that, that was the one that stumped them. And then you actually, on this can sort of sort it. So you can see, you can sort it by I'm debating right now. I've got 2 6th grades. One's a mod 1-2 class. One's a mod 3-4 class. When we start 4th quarter, do I put them all in the same class? And if I did, I could sort by all my mod 1-2 here, all my mod 3-4 here, so I could find students. So that's pretty cool. If I also go back to music reading quiz, let's see. Let me go back to my classroom here. Again, I got so many tabs open now.
While you're looking, Judy, for that, so there was a question about whether in classroom they still need to submit an assignment, or it looks like a test is still assigned in the classroom. And I said that Google Classroom works on the identifiers of assigned and submitted.
Yes.
So that's how Google Classroom identifies the status of an assignment, whether it's something that you've created and pushed out to your students, or it's something that they have completed and pushed back to you. That's the binary submitted versus, or assigned versus submitted. And then somebody said, where can they see that they have new work? Students can see it in the stream. They can see it in the classwork section of the classroom, or if they have email notifications set up, they can get an email notification that they have a new assignment.
Yes. So the stream is the order that assignments are given by the teacher. So that's chronological. Classwork is, if you don't know this about Classroom, you can chunk it down. So say, I'm doing it by week just because we're distance learning right now, and I want my students to know and during this week, these are the assignments you're going to do. But during the school year, I might have one for Keyboard Lab, where I do a Keyboard Lab, and I might have all the information on Keyboard Lab in that chunk. And then I might have one for music and the media when we do our unit on that. So everything for that unit's in one chunk. They still, on the stream, get everything chronological, but then if they can't find something else, they go over to your classwork tab and go to the unit that we're on, and it should be at the top, or it should be the third one down, or whatever.
And if you look on that left-hand tab where it says all topics, week 1, week 2, and week 3 on the left-hand side of that screen, that's how students can select a particular set of lessons that fall into the same topic. I covered a little bit of that last week and yesterday and the day before in some sessions I did.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways you can sort for your students. It's really sort of what's best for you. You know your kids and you know how they best work, and finding, again, just like anything Google, there's a million ways to do this. It's what works for you and what works for your students. So that's generally where that comes from. Right. Any other questions?
Yeah. Lisa, can you talk to us just a little bit more about your question that you put in the chat box, just to be a little more specific about it? Oh, unmute yourself, Lisa. I think you got to go there you go.
There. Okay. Yeah. I'm a gift and talent teacher, and I had done a video from a specific site, and then I had put on, the site actually gives you worksheets and everything with it. And then my student came back to me and was like, how are we supposed to do this? You didn't give us any kind of worksheet to do it on or anything. So I didn't know what I had done wrong. And I had done that all through Google Classroom. So I don't know what I...
Did you attach the worksheet as a document or as a file, or is the worksheet accessible through
I did it
a
as
link?
a file, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I had uploaded it to my computer and then I put it in as a file.
Interesting. They should have been able to access it if it was attached to an assignment and it was a file. I could see where there might be a little bit of a hitch if you give them a link if you attached a link to the assignment and said click on the link to get to the worksheet, I could see
Right.
that there might be a little translation lost there. But
No, I had a separate one for the link to
That's weird.
watch the video, and then and I didn't know. I'm very new to it, so I
oh
didn't
yeah,
know.
no, I
if
understand.
had-
That's weird. And I mean, I know Judy can probably vouch for this too, that even in Google World, as slick as this setup is, there are still weird hiccups that happen, that certain types of files that don't communicate well with things, or you can't access things as easily as, it's kind of bizarre.
Like, for example, I know one thing when I was researching this, because I wanted to see what some potential problems were that you may run into. If you attach anything to this assignment other than a quiz, like say you want to put something else underneath the quiz, a picture or something like that, it won't grade the quiz. Like the quiz has to be sort of pure in its form. So I'm wondering if it was something like that. It was sort of a glitch because you had it attached and it didn't like it.
Yeah, I just tried to. I went in now that you showed me the classwork part.
Mhm.
The webinar I didn't mention that part, so I did it under the classwork. So maybe she'll be able to see it now. I'm gonna email her and see if she can.
Yeah. You know, and again, a lot of this is going to be trial and error on your part and your students'
Right.
part as you get more comfortable with the platform and the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you still have problems, I'm happy to Zoom in with you, and then you could share your screen, and I could see what your settings are. And
Okay.
I'd be able to talk you through that.
Like-
Okay.
All right, I'll see if
Likewise.
this worked, and then yeah, I might get back a hold of you then.
Okay.
Absolutely. There was a question about, scheduling. So just like any other assignment, Judy, you can schedule a quiz to drop into a classroom at a
Yes.
future date. Can you show
Yeah.
everybody
so
maybe how to do that?
just a second. If I can get to that page.
While she's getting that set up, it just like, because think of a quiz as being an assignment, and every other type of assignment that you put into Google Classroom, you can schedule it to drop
Yes.
in the future, and you can do the same thing with a quiz.
You absolutely can. Now, if I can find it right now. That's a good one. I've done that many times. And why am I brain cramping right now?
Is it just out of your screen view? Is it next to save?
It might be. Oh, I bet you're right. Yeah, it is.
I wonder if you just make your window bigger, if it will.
I bet I bet it's down at the bottom. Because it's when you go to save it, when you go to post it, that there's a little drop down and you can tell when to assign it. Right here. Okay. Saving. Hold on just a second. It's one of those things that I use it, but you definitely can do it. I know you can.
Maybe Judy, maybe try going back to the classwork and just create a new quiz and see if it gives that option. We don't have to necessarily make the whole quiz, but
good idea. All right, so let's go to classwork. There we go. Create. So that's why you have the calendar there, because it will. This assignment right here. There we go. That's where the schedule comes in. So if I were to set all of this up before I hit assign, I could schedule it right there. Okay, so let me just do test. I think I need to give it a title, yeah. And then, why did it go back? Do it again. There we go. And then right here, drop down schedule. And then you can choose whenever you want it to drop in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Cancel out of that, and then before you go anywhere else, Judy, Leslie, if you look over where it says 4 on that right-hand panel, that's where you can decide which classes or sections you want this quiz to go to. So no, you don't have to make a new quiz for every section. You can have the same quiz go to multiple sections and a variety of students within that.
So I can't do it because would be confidentiality, but if I chose a different class, you would see the students in that class. They would be merged with the students in that test classroom, and you could even choose individual students between the two classes.
So some people have the primary quiz, which is the original version, and then they have the makeup quiz for anybody that wasn't there for the primary quiz. So if you're in that habit of making 2 quizzes, then you could just assign the makeup quiz for any particular students that didn't take it within the original window.
Right. The only thing you have to be careful when you do that is when you go to import grades, you have to be sure that you import both sets.
Yes.
Because they will look like 2 separate assignments.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Learning some good stuff. Okay. I'm kind of looking for other new questions in the chat box. I think we've touched on just about everything so far.
This is one, I want to just encourage people that this is one of those programs, don't get frustrated with it, because it's easily frustratable when you actually try to do this on your own, because there are so many options. So I can encourage you to play. Google has so much in it as far as like specific questions. Like how do you schedule a quiz to be assigned at a certain time? And it will take you right through that. The Google Suite for Education, they have some frequently asked questions that have a lot of these topics. And you feel free to reach out to me or to Jason, and we can talk you through that too. But this is one of those things that you really need to play with to figure out what's going to work best for you, because there are so many options of what works. And especially with the different content areas. I mean, I know what works for me. I do a lot of multimedia stuff. So I'm constantly using pictures and sounds and things like that. But there are some awesome applications for math and for ELA and science. Science especially, there are some really cool things you can use forms for. I know my son's science teacher has been doing some really neat things lately with him.
There's two Google extensions. One is called Doctopus and one is called Gubrick. And I don't know how much Gubrick is needed anymore because Google put their own rubric component in there. But Doctopus is that's like the most steroid enhanced Google extension that I've ever seen. Like it manages things, it makes copies of things, it does. I mean, it's just an incredible program that does it. And Judy can probably agree. I don't know how much she has experience with it, but but it's just like it's a really deep rabbit hole.
Right.
And it does a lot of cool things. It automates a lot of things for you, but it's several sessions of learning in and of itself.
Yes. And again, that's another one that you just take it small chunks at a time and Google it. There's so much, on YouTube. There's so much on YouTube that will show you how to do different things.
YouTube, is that right?
Do you hear my Google Assistant is over there?
Nice, like that. I like
she
that.
just chimed in.
Hey, everybody, I put a link in the chat box to a YouTube video. This is a Google-produced tutorial that will help remind you of some of the items and steps today. So if you don't want to go back through this whole session and watch everything again, but you want to get to some targeted, specific steps, then you're welcome to view that. Again, that's a Google-produced thing, so it's the production value is super high, and they're very to the point with it, which is good.
And Jason, you go ahead and put my email in there if you want, jmahalik@bangorschools.net. I'll see if I can find the chat. Let me stop sharing my screen and I'll go to the chat window myself. Feel free to reach out to me and ask questions as you play with this more. I don't want you to get frustrated because once you start learning this platform, it's very intuitive, but until you actually start using it, it's a learning curve. So, but I can't express how much of a time saver it is for me. What I found is my first year using it, I would do 1 or 2 assessments per grade level. I see kids by the quarter, so every quarter I would add one. And now it is just, it saves me so much time as far as putting an assessment up and having them take it and not having to photocopy or pen and paper or any of that stuff. And to be able to make it for me, media rich for them. So I can assess what they really do know.
Anyone else have any other pressing questions they want to throw our way? You probably just want some time to play with it now, don't you? That's usually.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
go,
do you,
go ahead, Leslie. Sorry.
how do you grade, manually grade an assignment and then enter that grade into it so that it continues to add up the grade?
Judy, we knew it was coming, but
I know we did.
yeah.
Let me show you. And this, as I said, this is one that I'm still playing with myself. So let me share my screen.
And Judy, I have done a little bit with this, but I don't have a sandbox classroom set up with it, so I can use your quiz though, and just walk you through.
You talk me through this then. All right, so let's go ahead and
because if we go to where if we go into forms where your quiz is.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't go like where the settings are? Or,
yeah.
Okay, let's see if I can find where the settings are. Got a million tabs open there.
Like with the
You know
where we can see
I'm gonna make a new quiz.
I'm gonna say where we can see the results.
Yep. Okay. Let me just move in. Okay. So, where you want to see where we see the results?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after somebody's submitted the quiz, where you can see the.
Let's go to the test classroom.
Results.
And let's do this one right here. So one assigned Susan. She has it assigned.
If we just open that if we open it up in forms,
okay,
we can see.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
This is probably just the quickest way to get to it, I would think.
Okay, and then go to
select whichever quiz that was, or any quiz. Yep, that has responses.
Let's see. We were. Oh, I don't know why that one. My computer screen is lagging.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Clicking on things that then are all of a sudden not there, or it's something else. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
All right. Let me go back to forms. Come on. So slow. All right, forms. And one with the responses, you said. So
yes.
That's that one that I was working on today. All right. So let's go to, I think, let's see what is this one. All right, so responses. Do I have any yet? No, that's.
Okay, well, I can, no, right there, that's fine.
All right, right there.
Okay, so does everybody see at the top where it says summary, question, and individual?
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, Leslie, you can make a choice to grade by based on each question. So you can look at, for question 1, you can look at everybody's responses, and then you can grade all of question 1 for everybody. And then you can go on to question 2, question 3, question 4, or however many you've got. Or you can grade each student's quiz by all the questions for each student. And that's when you go to individual. So go back to question for just a minute, Judy. So that drop-down menu where her hand is right now, if you click that drop-down menu, Judy, so now you can decide which question you want to start with grading, or see where it says 1 of 5, or now it says 4 of 5. You can tab back and forth between the questions, and you can go through and manually grade for each response. Does that make sense, Leslie?
So you see it says 2 responses right there. And so there's Susan.
Okay, where would you put the point value though?
Right over here on the right.
Yep. And you can click in that box, and you can manually change the point value.
Like right here, there's no point value right now. I could click in here and I could give her the points that she needs.
Now that will tally up a grade at the end and give you
Yes.
a grade?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. When you return it back to her, it will tell her how many points she received, how many points you issued her. So the cool part about it is you can grade everybody's question 1 answers first, and then everybody's question 2, or you can grade all of Johnny Jones, all of Sally Smith.
Yeah. And that's right here under responses.
So see where it says sfake24, it has her email address in the drop-down box. You can just arrow, right, you can do that and select a student at a time, or you can just arrow back and forth, and it will obviously, right,
yeah,
because you haven't done the score. Right, exactly. So it's going to prompt, in good Google fashion, it's going to prompt you if it wants you to save the scoring that you've done so that you don't end up losing that when you go back and forth between students.
So if I go back, I'll save it. Do you want to stay? Actually, I want to stay, and then I want to go down and save.
At the bottom, it says edits are pending. Those are all the changes that you've made. You can click save.
Yep.
And then it'll.
Yeah, and then I've got to move my. This is hard to do, Jason, with people.
I know. I'm sorry.
Move you. But yeah, there we go, right there. I couldn't see it, so.
It's hiding underneath everything. I don't know why it says edits not saved. That's weird.
Dismiss.
Oh, you know what I think the problem is, Judy? We didn't give those questions a point value. So
that's why.
Right.
Yeah, that's why.
So Leslie, see where it says 2 out of 0?
If I change that.
Right. If in the initial quiz setup you gave that 2 points, you could give it anywhere from 0 to 2 points.
I actually have another question.
Go for it.
Okay, I have to modify tests for special ed students. So I usually give special ed students a completely different test that's modified for their needs. Now, how can I set that up on Classroom so not everyone in the class sees that they're taking a different test from other students?
Oh, that's easy. You just create the separate quiz or the separate test for them, and you only assign it to them.
So it won't show up in the stream.
That I don't know, but I know that you can assign it just to them so nobody else gets it.
Yeah. That's
the whole stream business. Yeah, Judy just said it. It's a good question. The stream business, because this is.
I think it only shows up in their stream.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Individual, so I'm not positive. I need to check on that.
The stream, the way Google Classroom has used the stream since it came about, it's a fairly new addition to Classroom, and it's changed how you can use it. Like, you used to be able to use the topics to organize things in the stream, and now you can't do that anymore. They've changed some of the functionality of it. That's one thing. If you were on a session that I did a couple days ago or last week, I commented on how I liked when you used to be able to do that, and then Google took that away. So they give some good functionality, but they also take some away too.
All right, so this is Bill Fake, who's in the same class. Remember, I assigned that quiz just to Susan. So if I go to Bill's, yeah, he doesn't have the same quiz that she had. Okay, he's got the one that I assigned earlier this morning at 11:35. He doesn't have that brand new one I just gave her that we just played with. So if you call him the exact same things, he's going to think he has his treble clef quiz. She's going to think she has hers because they have the same title. Hers will be different than his. That makes sense.
Does that help, Leslie?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Nope, that is good. That answers that question like fundamentally, because I was still a little up in the air myself about where it would appear and how. So. Awesome. Any other questions, anybody? These are all great. I hope this has been helpful and useful today.
Thank you for being patient with me as I try to play with tabs. I didn't realize how overwhelming that can be.
And you've got a lot open, just like I've got a lot open right now. So. And yes, it seems like every tab that you open, it makes things run a little slower than they did a second ago. So I get that.
Right. Well, again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you through it. Again, if you're not sure about your settings, we can Zoom together and you can share your screen with me and I can help you make sure that everything is set up the right way.
Absolutely.
Because that's usually when you have a problem, that's what it is. You've got a setting that's somehow not set up correctly, or it's a Google glitch, which does happen. But usually it is a setting.
I do have a quick question. If when you're setting up your quiz, you've done something stupid, and because we're in a hurry and we're all overloaded a little bit right now, we don't know that we've missed it. Will it, if there's a fundamental thing, will it say you haven't done X, Y, or Z, or does it, if it's garbage in from us, is garbage what comes out? You know, if we've made some stupid.
Yeah.
Good question.
It depends on what it is. Because it doesn't know, like, if it was something like, if you didn't set it up as a quiz to be graded as a quiz, you would know that pretty immediately. And I've done that before. I've grabbed just a Google form, I've set it up, and then said, why am I not able to grade this? And that's the first thing I check. Settings, did you set it up as a quiz? But if it's something like, and this is the one that I always make a mistake with, is that they can only submit one response. I always forget that, and I've got kids that are like, oh, I got a 28 on it, but I went back and I got 75, you know, like, okay, that was my fault. So it depends. I mean, it depends. It will do what you tell it to do.
Okay.
Okay. So
there are some components, Pam, that it will prompt you that it can't save it or it can't assign it because you've missed certain things. But then if you have filled out every field that's necessary, even if you didn't fill it out correctly, it'll say, oh, it has data in there, so there it is, you know.
And one of the things that I did early on is I set up a template. So I set up just my template quiz, and I've got all the settings correct. I made sure of it. And then every time I make a new quiz, it's got that, remember that first field that I have their name and the mods that they have classes? I want that in every single one. I want it set up in a quiz in every single one. I want them to be able to submit it only once in every single one. So what I do is I just use that, I make a copy of it, and then I change the name of it. So the template never gets changed. I just change the name and then add the questions in. And you can import questions, by the way, from one quiz to the other. So say if one 8th grade didn't get as far as the other 8th grade, you make the other 8th grade quiz first, and then just import the questions that you want or delete the questions you want, make a copy and delete. It's pretty versatile that way.
And that would be good for a follow-up session in the future if we want to cover how to do some of that.
Yep.
That would be good.
Do that.
And I can also work to create a quiz where they're open-ended responses that you need to go through and manually grade. That would be good to look at as well. Judy, you and I, we could work on setting that up. So.
Yeah, I'd really like to practice with that myself. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's clearly more time consuming to do that because but it would be under normal circumstances anyway. If you lived in a world where you could have something auto grade your quizzes for you, you would spend less time on that versus giving somebody a writing prompt and having them give you an open-ended answer. You'd take more time to respond to those anyway. So. Everybody, I put the link to the form in the chat box for you to get your PD certificate today. Oh, Judy, we have another question. Can you show us how to reuse a quiz?
Okay, sure. So,
Great question, Leslie.
good question. So I'm going to go back to. I'm going to grab a quiz of one that I've already made up. So I'm going to go to, it opens, my test. And then this time, instead of doing a quiz assignment, what I'm going to do is I am going to simply do a regular assignment. So I'm going to go to classwork. And then, again, I need to move these pictures. I'm going to create just a plain old assignment. If I create a quiz assignment, it's going to put a quiz in there that I can edit. So I'm going to do music, the vocab quiz that I've already got done. And then I'm going to add from my Google Drive. And I'm just going to navigate to Music of the Renaissance. I can search for it right here. Let's see if I can find it. And there it is right there, my Renaissance vocab quiz. And so it's right there. I can change this to whatever I want it to say, can add directions, and then just assign it.
If you change the parameters in the right-hand panel, it won't alter the quiz at all.
Right.
All it does is, all that has to do is who's getting it, how many points is it worth, when is it due, what topic do you want it to fall under. It will not change the substance, the content in the quiz document, which is awesome to know.
Exactly.
Good question again, Leslie.
Excellent question. And that actually, as I said, that's been time saving, because once you have a quiz made up, then you can adapt it to, like, I teach the same thing 4 quarters, and I still don't teach the same thing 4 quarters. I still have different concepts that I'll touch on and things I don't get to. So you can just take those questions out, adapt them. So I have a template, and then I just adapt from there.
Awesome. Anyone else have any last minute questions here? We've got a couple minutes left. Going once. Going twice. So I can assume maybe by show of hands that a follow-up session would be useful for this. Anybody interested? If we did a follow-up session, say next week, and okay, give you a couple days to play around with it and create some things, and okay, awesome, seeing thumbs up and hand waves and all that. Good.
I think that's a really nice way to follow up, because one of the things that I noticed is right here. I mean, it's all just as clear and beautifully set out. Thank you so much, Judy, while we're watching you do it. And then you're going to go away and we're going to try to do it ourselves. And we might get in like 2 steps deep and say, wait.
Exactly. No, I totally hear you. And that's why feel free to reach out to me. I'm serious when I say that. Feel free to reach out, because I know how frustrating that can be. Like, what did she say? What did she do?
Yeah.
I get it.
Wanda, if anybody's looking at the chat box, Wanda brings up a really great point. See where it says Originality Reports at the bottom of that right-hand panel? It prevents students from copying and pasting answers. If they do, it shows that it was plagiarized info. So that's yet another feature built into to this component that gives you a little bit of a academic support.
But will it only do that if you click that box off?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
it's an option that you have to select.
Okay.
So you can choose to do it or not do it. I mean, it really depends on, I think it would be a matter of if they were doing a quiz where they're selecting which note on the staff is C, that you wouldn't need it nearly as much for that, because they're all working with the same images. But if you're doing open-ended responses, you wouldn't want them to copy and paste each other's answers, right?
And that's where, if they're working with Chromebooks, the advantage comes in, because you can lock down so they can only be in that.
Absolutely. That's a really cool feature. That's something new that I hadn't even seen until you popped it up. So that's really cool.
Very cool.
Super cool. So is everybody, oh, go ahead, Pam.
Sorry. So on
No,
that
that's fine.
Chromebook, what struck me as, if you can only answer it once, then you can't go back and double check your work and find out that you whoops made a mistake and fix it?
You can go back, but once you've submitted it, you're done.
Oh, okay. Once you submit it. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yep. Good point of clarification on that. That's good. So does everybody remember how to save the chat box in Zoom? Many of you have done this with me so far. If you don't know how to save the chat box in a Zoom meeting, if you have the chat box open down at the bottom where it says type message here, you'll see a little gray lined box with 3 dots in it. If you hover over it, it should say more. If you click on that, you can select save chat, and it will save all of the chat text as a TXT text file. That's pretty universal format. You can open that in just about any word processing document that you would want to. It's a universal format. And that way you'll have Judy's email address. You'll have, I don't think I put mine in there. I'll put mine in there for everybody in case you want to reach out to me too. Whoops.
We have that Google Forms for the certificate saved if you haven't already.
Yes, and you'll have the link to the Google form to get your PD certificate. You'll have the link to the YouTube video to go back and review some of this. Yep, and if you look on Judy's screen, she's still sharing. She saved that chat box and
That's him.
Yeah.
renamed it, and there it is.
I renamed it just so it doesn't have a date because I never remember.
Oh, Molly, if you're working with an iPad, I'm not sure. I've never done a Zoom meeting on an iPad before, so I'm not sure if there's a chat save feature through the iPad app component of it. I'm not entirely sure. But if anybody needs any of this information, send me an email and I'm happy to email it right back to you. I can send you the link separate and all that stuff. So also this video, once it's uploaded tonight, should be available tomorrow or the next day, that you can go back and review it later on the Department of Education's YouTube channel, which again is, if you go to YouTube and search for Maine DOE COM, I put it in the chat box. If you save that channel, that's the Department of Education's official YouTube channel. You'll find lots of videos up there, PD videos of all different topics that have been covered over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And more great things to come. I want to give a special thank you to Judy for guiding us through this today. Thank you, Judy, for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Judy.
And like Judy said, she's available for follow-up stuff. I'm available for follow-up stuff. Reach out to each other, reach out to us, and we'll help you get ahead in this.
Thank you so much for your help.
Very cool. You are very welcome. So happy to help. And look to the DOE's main page where the content specialist meetings are. When Judy and I are able to coordinate a follow-up session with our schedule, I'll post that up there with a link to register again, just like you did, and we'll keep offering as much as we can to help you keep making forward progress.
Right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to give you another minute or so to copy the stuff from the chat box, but you're free to leave if you've gotten what you want to get. Thanks again, Judy. Appreciate your help.
Everyone.
It was awesome.
Good to see you, Judy.
Good seeing you too, George.
All righty. We'll talk.
We will.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Jay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Angel.
Right on cue, Judy. Right on
Heard the
cue.
dog barking. Someone else's dog is barking too.
What breed? It sounds like a little pup.
Is a little Yorkie Chihuahua.
Oh, look.
And she sleeps right on I've got a little bed set up for her. She sleeps there all day. So.
Oh yeah, mine is literally right here. Yep. But he's my 85-pound lab, so he's not. But he's snoozing right now. What's her name?
Angel.
Oh, Angel, she's so cute. Oh,
She needs a haircut. There are no groomers open, so she's a little.
yeah, no joke. My Simon needs some grooming as well. He's gotten pretty mangy. So thanks again, Judy. I appreciate your time and your efforts. That was really fantastic.
No, this was wonderful. I had a good time. Thank you so much.
And you and I can coordinate a schedule. And we'll look at next week's calendar and see if we can do a follow-up. That'd be really cool.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.